What's up guys, it's Akramef Gaming here, and welcome to Analyzing Art. In this type of video series, what we do is we break down the different artists or illustrators that make some of our favorite games, whether that's Legend of Zelda, Dark Souls, Fire Emblem, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Splatoon, like any sort of game you can think of. Your favorite game, we break them down and analyze and almost give flowers to the artists or 3D artists or illustrators or animators that are involved. I'm going to be breaking down the artwork of Takumi Wada. Takumi Wada is an illustrator who worked for Nintendo between his graduation from his university program in April of 2009 until he retired in January of 2019 to spend more time with his family. His first project was Blades of Rengenlive? I'm just going to call it Blades of Art. That was his first project, where he had to create rough sketches to be sent to his contact illustrators. The main works that we're going to talk about is regarding his work that he did for Zelda, The Legend of Zelda, my favorite series. Particularly his Skyward Sword artworks and his Breath of the Wild artworks, even his Tears artworks to an extent, but we're going to break it down. So his works include, since the beginning, obviously, Blades of Rengenlive, Mario vs. Donkey Kong, Mario Sports Mix, The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, Mario Kart 7, Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, Mario Kart 8, Mario Party 10, Mario Tennis, Breath of the Wild, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Super Mario Party, and even Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. So this guy's library of works is crazy. You have to give him his flowers. But let's talk about the Skyward Sword artworks. And the first thing I'm going to start with is line work. In terms of the line work, when you look closer at the illustrations, there are very thin lines in the way that he does it, almost as if they're not there. It's like the shadows and the colors kind of support and just make up the mold or limbs of the character, but they're very thin in terms of their lines. A majority of it looks painted, but it almost looks like watercolors that bleed into each other really well. It gives like a nice rustic or legendary vibe, which the series is known for. Whenever you have an artist that can do an artwork so good, that doesn't mean any line work just speaks volumes in itself. The next part I break down is shading. One thing that artists tend to do is whenever people reach into like the foreground, they'll kind of darken their hand or something, or do something that has heavier line work to kind of emphasize how close it is to the camera. In Takumi's works, the way he tends to do his is that in terms of the way he does his shading, you'll notice that if Link's body part reaches into the foreground, or any other part like his leg just reaches into the background, the closer he gets to the foreground or the camera itself, the lighting just gets a bit more darker and rougher. Whereas the limbs in the background, if they're moved aside, just tend to get a bit more lighter and a bit more faded. It makes for an interesting contrast from light to dark, but also provides a different kind of art style you don't see. And sometimes when you know your lighting and shading, you can kind of just break the boundaries, but no one will ever pull you up on it because you know it so well. I like the way the pastel colorways tend to bleed into the shading really nicely. You'll notice that where the shadows are meant to be, they're filled in with kind of like a sky or kind of darkish blue. And normally that's just where, if you saw shadows of my arm, you can't see in front of me, but behind it's just black shadows. You have to give a man props for how well he can make an artwork be done. It almost makes the illustrations seem kind of heavenly to an extent. If you look in the background, you'll see a lot of blues and skyward kind of aesthetics going on, but I guess that's to highlight the game at the same time. And you'll notice that sometimes with the colors, they're not that saturated, almost like they kind of desaturate the colors almost, but then it kind of gets heavier in certain areas and kind of jumps around, but it plays on the fact that it's very uniform between each design that it kind of fills in. He basically makes colors of the opposite spectrum, like red and blue, bleed into each other in a uniform way. and he knows how to make his illustrations almost look like they're shrouded in He knows how to make sure that his illustrations are kind of If you look into the background of the way he does like the sky, or makes characters silhouette in the blue sky, it just seems very natural, or if it was kind of meant to be there per se. But he looks like it almost looks like it's shrouded in mystery to an extent, because I guess the legend or ancient kind of mystery of the Zelda series, you know what I mean. This is just me being nitpicky, but whenever the characters are drawn or Link is drawn, it's like a point of their body, like whenever Link's foot is back or something that's just going into the background like the sword, it kind of fades out in a way, and it's interesting. It almost reminds me of the Sonic Riders artwork, where they do the opposite. It will just be a flat, shaded in kind of silhouette of their body, but they're very close, but it just provides, I just like the way artists tend to make sure their designs are very unique in a sense. And when you can have fun and kind of play around with just fading out limbs or completely just not making no effort to shade them in, it just provides a theme. And when you see all the characters together uniform, you can't even really complain, because it just makes the style look so sick. I also like the way they do their lens flares. When I say lens flare, that just means that the Master Shield and the Master Sword, the way they highlight at the edge, or almost seems like you're looking at the sun. You know, when you look at the sun, it kind of has that lens flare. It's right. It's kind of how it makes it just highlight how legendary these weapons are, that the only thing that's highlighted is the sword and the shield. Well, even though it's metal, but you catch my drift. From when I did this research, as I said, he's retired now, but I would have loved to see more of his works per se. It's being an artist myself, or being a guy who does illustrations, it's always painful when you don't get to see more of his work. But if we close that book on itself, his workload itself would have been sick. I would have loved to see him do some Fire Emblem or some more Radiant kind of series, or even Metroid. It's interesting when artists take on a whole different genre, because they bring a new feel to the series. Even though Metroid designs are mainly going to be 3D models, they won't really have illustrations drawn. It will just be interesting of the what ifs. Shout outs to Marvel. But that's it for my art analysis. What do you think of Takumi's artworks? And if you were rocking with this video, please make sure to like, comment and subscribe, and tell me who your favorite artist is. And if you don't know the artist, just let me know what your favorite game series artwork is. I know I have my favorites, but it'll be good to see yours. Peace.